All right, so a bit of a yawn there. Wanted to talk about like an aspect of therapy that I find interesting. I think therapy is a little bit problematic, generally speaking, in that it treats obviously there's different kinds of therapy, there's different kinds of psychology, there's whole giant branches of psychology and whole giant branches of therapy. Guess what I'm referring to as cognitive behavioral therapy, because that seems to be the dominant strain, at least the therapists that I've worked with. I'm certainly not an expert. I've read a little bit about it, but I'm really just going off of like my experience that I picked up. So for me, what I've seen is that you tell the therapist your problems, and they're like, and then maybe they encourage you to set some goals, maybe they don't. But ultimately, they give you some little coping techniques, like try to be mindful, try to focus more on the present moment, try to, maybe picture something, or, they've given me some really ridiculous suggestions. But I guess like what I feel like it's really missing is like a larger sort of structural systemic analysis piece of it, where like I think you have sort of a boomer and a doomer speaking past each other, because you have these boomers that are very like optimistic in the position of being the therapist. They like sort of view things as good. They like have all of this like sort of, I guess, conventional positive attitudes towards things, very like pro-family, if you just believe it, you can do it, sport. But then you have, I guess, the doomer or the younger person, often millennial, Gen Z, who's just like, no, like there's really not a lot of opportunities, not much can change, this whole system is broken, and I'm just part of a larger trend. That's like something that's been interesting. I have sort of been able to get it through to my therapist that I'm not like some like weird individual with bad coping mechanisms and some just wacky chemical imbalance. It's like, when the situation is dire, when all the things are bad, I don't need to list them all off, you know what they are. It's just sort of like obvious, I think it's a generational trend. It's a rational response to the social, political, economic, and like climate issues that we have seen in our lifetime. And, it's a response to just feeling like there is no positive potential in the future, whether that's for me, like as an individual, and my own sort of like economic, social, romantic, whatever opportunities. There's no real like potential good there to look forward to or even imagine, nor is there any real good or potential or interest in sort of the future of humanity as a whole. It just seems to be slowly grinding away and circling the drain, and just getting constantly, permanently worse. So I think the therapy is still valid if you accept that sort of worldview, because the role shifts from trying to change that worldview to trying to cope with that worldview and trying to like live in a shitty situation as best as you possibly can, and stay away from opting out, sort of thing. So yeah, I guess just to summarize, the point is you have these younger people who basically just see the hopelessness of everything, and older people who are in positions of like therapy and stuff, who are being therapists, who they just it's the generations speaking past each other. It's like two ships in the night. But I think there's a more productive conversation to be had if you can get them to understand that it's a larger systemic, cultural, economic force. You're a product of a trend. You're not an isolated weirdo. So I'm going to call that a day and talk to you in the next one here.